You have a history of physical fitness.
Yeah, I actually really enjoy physical fitness, and I kind of get it from my father, who was actually he was a semi-professional bodybuilder.
All right, Tim, what do you have? What are you drinking today? Or did you bring anything to the table?
Just air, man.
Just air?
Just air.
Just air.
Air.
Is that the stuff coming out of like what's supposed to be where your brain is, or is that just?
I'm on step 5, man.
Oh, you're on step 5.
I'm on step 5.
Wow, that's really quick for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, it's my first day, and I'm on step 5. So
You're just that good.
Just that good.
Overachiever.
All right.
What are you drinking?
Congratulations on step 5.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back step 3 tomorrow. What are you drinking?
So last week I had a Paulaner, and I still can't do this last one. I'm going to try it. Munchin. Last week was Paulaner. I'm doing the same thing. This one's the Oktoberfest. It's a Marzen. I'm pretty excited about it. I'm interested in the Marzen. So let's see what we got here.
You know, Oktoberfest in Helen, Georgia is the coolest place to be.
Oh yeah, loved it. We got a cabin there one time. Oh, that was such a blast.
You ever done that, Matt?
No, I haven't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's an interesting Marzen. So it's very light, not a ton of flavor. A little sour. I'm going to be honest. It's not my favorite. It's a good, like, summer beer sitting on like the lawn, kind of just shooting the crap kind of thing. Yeah, 5.8% alcohol. It's not bad. It's just I think I expected more for Paulaner.
Okay,
they really got my hopes up with the Doppelbock last week.
Andy, Matt, I'm sorry. I got to go into this real quick since you're drinking Oktoberfest beer. One year I went to Helen for Oktoberfest. It was actually my first year there, right? And if you guys know anything about Helen, Georgia, it's a Bavarian style town in Northeast Georgia that is meant to look like the Black Forest area of Germany. And nobody there is actually German, maybe a couple of people. And the town wasn't actually built on German people. But so my first year there, I go out to drink, but I saw these beef jerkies made from Carolina Reaper. I was like, oh, this is a great idea to eat this whole bag. Dude, I shat in every single toilet in Helen, Georgia that day. That I can't even tell you if Oktoberfest was going on that day, because that's all I did. I went from the end of the street and like I visited every single fucking toilet. And I shat in every single toilet, and I did it for the rest of the night.
I remember this story because I bought you on Amazon.
Right, that's right. You did.
Toilet hopping.
Yeah. So how does it taste now that we've talked about that? I know you don't like it too much, right?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan. It's more sour than I expected, but it's super light, like super light. If you're looking for a light beer that you can just get through the day with, like this is the way to go. It's much better than, any Budweiser. So
take that,
yeah,
Matt.
no, I can't. I should say my hesitation is because I had high expectations after Doppelbock, but this is a good beer. Overall, it's a good beer.
Nice.
What about you, Matt? What do you got?
Okay, so I bought the same beer at the same place I bought my other beer, the Aggressive Cold beer, at Cold Storage. This is called Connor's Stout Porter, and I've already drank this. I bought a 4-pack recently, and I actually really like it. But I didn't realize until after my second beer that apparently I'm supposed to shake this beer before drinking it.
Yeah, shake vigorously.
Shake vigorously. So let's do that before I drink this.
Harder.
Oh,
yes.
Harder.
Yes. I'm good.
That's not how most guys shake their cans, by the way.
Really?
Oh, that's supposed to be a can?
Is it?
Right?
No.
Do people normally shake their beers?
Oh,
this
there
way.
you go.
Okay. So I'm supposed to shake until you don't hear any more sounds. And then it helps.
Before you open this, a long time ago, Matt and I used to live in the same apartment. He had never had chopped up habaneros before. This was a fun time. So he decided that he was going to chop up habaneros. Our kitchen was like 10 feet by 3 feet and pretty enclosed. So he's chopping up habaneros. I see the cutting board. I see him pulling it out. I beeline it outside that freaking kitchen. And then I wait like 5-10 minutes and I just hear this incessant coughing going on in the kitchen, and I just start laughing. I can't stop laughing. And Matt has no idea what's going on. That being said, please open the beer up, Matt. I'm curious what happens now.
Okay. So, but maybe okay, I was gonna point away from me, but then let's get on my computer. All right, let's see how it goes. Oh my god, that's a very creamy.
Did you open it all the way?
No.
For our listeners, there's just head going everywhere.
No, I didn't even open it all the way. Okay, there we go. Okay, it's okay. We're safe. Okay, it's supposed to allow it to have shake until no sound to get a creamy head.
Guys, we're old enough. Don't laugh at this.
Very creamy. That's some creamy head. It's nice. I like it.
I think we're starting to see that you have a style. You gravitate towards a style of darker, heavier bodied beers. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. I tried to find them where I can in Singapore. It's hard to find.
But you don't like Guinness.
For some reason, I went through phases with Guinness. I didn't like it. I liked it for a while. Then I tried other stout beers, and then I didn't like it.
Now, when you say you like Guinness and then you didn't like Guinness, you didn't go from like draft to can, right? Because the can doesn't taste the same as draft.
No, I usually drink the can stout, the can Guinness beers, and there's like 2 or 3 different varieties of Guinness, right?
Well, yeah.
Nitro the Nitro one, right?
Oh, you're talking about Guinness specifically. Yeah, Nitro, they have the Guinness Blonde, and then they have the Guinness. I think that's it.
I think it was the Guinness Nitro where I wasn't a big fan of. I thought I would like it more, but
yeah.
Guinness is the OG though, man. It's the best stout.
I mean, when you're not hungry for dinner, boom, Guinness. Boom.
Well,
I mean, you're good.
Exactly.
But the great thing about Guinness is that you can drink it any time of the day because of the low alcohol content compared to like IPA or something else.
Guinness was the OG intermittent fasting drink.
Well, we also had our time with Blue Moon too. Remember at the old Hideaway Cafe.
I'm not sure if that was a time as much as it was like an era of our life.
Speaking of drinking, man, dude, the best time to have a beer. When?
Beer?
After a good run, right?
Oh God.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Oh yeah. Like an ice cold one too. Oh yeah. So yeah, that's good. So I want to. This is going to be fun because I'm going to force Matt into the spotlight, even though this isn't his episode, because I kind of want to talk about what it's like to get into running, what things to look out for, and how like your mind might be focused on particular things to improve, even though it shouldn't be. So, Matt, how long ago did you start running? Again, I should back up. You used to play soccer, like hardcore soccer.
Right.
You went into a physically demanding job, and then you kind of went bench warmer for a while before starting back up running. So you have a history of physical fitness.
Yeah, I actually really enjoy physical fitness, and I kind of get it from my father, who was actually he was a semi-professional bodybuilder. And when I was in soccer, I was one of the fastest in the league. And then when I was in the military, we had to run almost every day. And then when I was in Cambodia, I actually also was like super fit at one point where I was like doing 1-arm pull-ups. That was the peak of my life right there when it comes to fitness.
Yeah, when you're not eating and you weigh like a buck 10, I'm sure that's
yes. Yeah. I used to weigh 140 pounds and eat like 20 crystal burgers.
Oh yeah.
Those small
yeah.
small mini burgers. Yeah.
That reminds me of home.
Yeah. Sorry, but what was your question again?
So
What?
like how long ago did you start running?
Oh, so I started running about almost 2 months ago.
Okay.
And it was difficult. But
so walk me through like when you started your first run to now, how has your focus changed? Like when you did your first run, what were you concentrating on to improve versus now?
when I first started running, I was just happy just running. My fitness was bad. Because of my job, I sit at my desk all day, every day. And because of COVID, we don't go out to the mall, the stores. So I was very out of shape to the point where I started feeling tingling at my fingers. Started feeling a tingling in my feet, and I'm like, what's wrong with me? Do I have diabetes or something? I don't know. So I was like, I need to do something. And then I just went ahead and then I asked my wife for some money to buy a nice Garmin watch. And I never bought a real fitness watch before besides a Fitbit a long time ago.
So you bought the watch before you started running?
I bought the watch before I started running.
Was that to guilt trip yourself and to make sure?
Yes, it was.
That's what I figured.
Yes. It was. I bought the Garmin 945.
Okay.
And I was debating about between buying this and then in the 945 LTE. But I'm pretty happy with this so far. And it can play music and everything, and it's fun. But I bought this as a kind of like a permanent reminder because every time I look at my watch to see the time, I'm like, it's a Garmin watch. I spent so much money on this. I need to run. But yeah, when I first started, the hardest part for me was just getting up out of the chair, breaking out of my habits to just start running. But once I actually, ran, got on the track, and then just started running, it felt great. It felt amazing. Okay. It's like, yeah.
So for me, was that like the first day out? You're like, you know what? I enjoy this.
Yeah, it was. Was.
I am envious of you. The first time I went out running, I was like, I hate my life. I hate everything. I don't want to talk to anybody.
That's because he's lying. That is lying. If he's telling us he liked his first day of running, he's lying.
I'm just so surprised you enjoyed it, man.
No, it's one of two things. You're either lying or you didn't run. You probably didn't run.
Probably didn't run as much. Probably nothing like you guys, but for me, I've always liked fitness. Like no matter what I did, I mean, besides running was my least favorite out of all the things. The most I love is running, and then not running, bicycling, and then swimming.
You know what?
But I always liked
fitness. I've never seen you bicycling. No,
I don't
think I've ever seen you do it. Interesting.
When I was in Cambodia, that was our main mode of transportation. In 110-degree weather was biking every day. Yeah, and I cannot bike slow. I need to bike fast.
So with running, when you I guess you enjoyed it. That's bizarre. So what were you focused on? Like as soon as you hit the road, were you just trying to get miles underneath your feet, or were you staring at your watch and constantly trying to make sure you were hitting a certain metric? What were you doing?
Well, the first time was because I bought the Garmin watch, and I was experimenting with it, and I have no knowledge of like running properly. Even now, I'm still learning. But even at that time, I was at step 0, and so I decided to go with one of their fitness training programs with Jeff Galloway, and I figured, okay, I'll give it a try, put it on, and the first week they wanted you to take it easy. Just run a little bit, and that was it. I was like, huh, is that it? I only ran for maybe like less than a few minutes with the training program, and I wanted to run more. That's how I felt like. I was like, okay. But I was like, I'll trust the Garmin watch and just stick with the plan. And I stuck with it for a few weeks, and I felt pretty similarly. I'll just this feels like training plan is a bit slow for me, but I'll stick to it. And then I was forced to take a week off I was like, okay, I will just do my own thing. So now
That's
I'm
fair.
just like, so now I've been trying I took a week off, and then after that, it's like, you know what? I'm gonna jump to it. I'm gonna do a 5K. And it wasn't, I didn't run all the way, obviously.
So
with my
was
level of
it
fitness.
5K because of the distance, or was it 5K because you wanted to finish a 5K under a certain time?
It was more, I felt bad for, because in Singapore, they tell you when you take the first vaccine shot, which I did,
Mhm.
they say don't run for a week or don't do any fitness at all for a week.
Oh wow, I was not
yeah.
given that
Yeah,
at all.
because there was a kid who had the first vaccine shot, and he was training hard, and then like on the 6th day, he was taken to the hospital after doing heavy lifting.
It's an interesting correlation right there.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. So after that, they're like,
N
okay,
equals one.
no more fitness training during their first week. So my family is very big.
From an N of 1.
Yeah, from an N and one. That's
Yeah.
I mean, when the country only has like 1 million people.
Yeah,
I'm just joking.
Yeah,
it has more than 1 million before everybody starts
14
yelling
million.
at me. Yeah,
14 million.
barely
around
over
there,
a million.
Yeah, barely.
So okay, then let's juxtapose this. Tin, how did you start off running? Like, what were you focused on?
Suffering.
Right.
Right. So, you and Steph actually just happened to help me get into running when I was considering running. I'd been in the gym. I'd been a gym rat for many years of my life, and I felt like I was in a plateau. And resistance training and increasing resistance is one thing, and hitting PR every few months or once or twice a year it's fun, right? But it's hardly suffering. You get used to lifting the weights, and even though it gets difficult to add on an additional 2, 3, 4, 5 pounds once you get to a certain point, it just doesn't hurt anymore. You guys remember the first time you lifted weights and then you had the delayed onset muscle soreness the day after or 2 days
I'm
after.
still in pain.
Yeah.
It's painful. But the thing about running was that I wanted to find a way to hurt, to feel a certain level of discomfort that didn't cost me anything that would be important in my life, right? And it just so happened to benefit me at the same time. So I wasn't running for distance. I wasn't running for speed. I remember when I first started running, the only thing that I cared about was trying to stay in motion. So I wanted to run, even though my jog at the time or my run at the time was slower than my walk was. But getting into that motion and that mindset of, you got to do it, and you got to do it as long as possible without tiring out, because when I first started running, I would drink water every single, maybe 1/20th of a mile, right? To now we can go miles and miles and miles without drinking ever. But, at that time it was just, okay, I need to change. I need to feel discomfort. And even till today, and, Andy, we've ran many miles together. I still feel discomfort when I'm running, and I still enjoy it because of it. I was out running with Phoenix this morning. I didn't even hit a mile with her, but we did feel discomfort, and that's what I look for. What about you, man? What did you?
So when I okay, so you guys have both known me for a long time, and I used to have this phrase like, look, I'm in school, I'm focused on bettering my brain, making my mind stronger. I'm not going to work out. I was 250 pounds of pudge, and like 10 pounds of that was just straight alcohol.
I'd
I got
rather
into
work out
running.
my brain. You remember that?
I mean, that's still now. But I got into running because and I've said this before here, I got into running because of a health issue. And it wasn't like a huge health issue to me personally, and it might not even be a blip on other people's screens, but for me, it was, I guess I would say, a game changer. So I hit the treadmill and hit the track wanting to do something that wasn't, I guess, denying myself a life beyond 10 years, denying myself like the happiness that I could have. So I went in there and I started running, and it wasn't for a distance. It was like you, Tim. It wasn't for distance. It wasn't for time. It was literally to prove to myself that I'm worth more than I think I am. And I went in there, and every single time that I felt like I was about to collapse, I found myself yelling at myself, "Hey, you can go further. Like, is this where you quit? Is this the time that you say this is the best you can do?" And I found myself saying no, over and over and over again. And now we did our first ultra marathon. I got in the bag, and now I question myself and like, hey, what's next? What's there? And we talk about timings, we talk about paces, our cadence and whatnot. But that's what struck me. And while this wasn't going to be the focus of this episode, I do find this interesting. If you're getting into running, the reason why you get into running is your own, but never forget what it actually is. Never like let that go away. Like, that's your purpose. That's why you're there. And keep it going. It might change a little bit, but like, remember that's why you're doing it, whether it's running or whether it's any other kind of physical fitness.
I think.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say. I think what helped me was that before I've gotten to running off and on over the years, and my mentality before was always, like, oh, okay, this is something I have to do. Go out and run. I'm out of shape. I need to go run. Let's go. But I think what's helped me is like changing my thinking about it, like my mentality of who I am. And I think what's helped me change was that, okay, running from now on for me is a permanent life change. It's a permanent thing for me. It's a permanent part of my life. I am a runner. That's what I told myself. I'm a runner. I do it. And I think including that as part of my life as the same as like I eat. What I do is I eat every day,
Mm-hmm.
I also run every day, or run every other day. Like, and I feel bad if I don't run on the day I'm supposed to run. I'm like, okay, I didn't run today. But tomorrow I'm going to run. And then on that day, I was like, okay, I didn't run yesterday. Okay, today I have to run, and just making that actually as a permanent part of my life. And then just thinking of it, it's like, it doesn't matter how hard I push myself, just as long as I'm out, like you said before, off camera, feet on the ground, as long as I'm on the field running, it doesn't matter how much effort I put in, as long as I'm doing something, it's better than not doing nothing, I feel like.
Yeah. No, I'm 100% with you. And something is always going to be better than nothing. That said, I don't think none of us actually get out there and just say, hey, no, today's the day I told myself I was going to go out there. We usually have a goal. We all have different amount of time that we've been in physical fitness. I think Tim's been in there way longer than Matt and I. But when it comes to physical fitness in general, we come out there with a goal. With running in particular, Matt, what's your goal like this week, for example?
My goal right now is previously, because we're right now, all three of us, we do weekly running challenges where we challenge ourselves to the total amount of kilometers. One of the previous weeks, Thien was at 20 kilometers, and I was supposed to beat him that week, but I went out running with one of my friends. And I asked him, hey, you want to do a 5K? And he's like, no, I don't want to do a 5K. Let's do a 3K. 3K is fine for me. I was like, okay, let's do a 3K.
It's in miles for us, by the way.
Oh, sorry. I am totally converted now. So then I was intending on doing it anyway. So now I'm trying to beat that. I'm trying to get to 20 kilometers for as in total for the week.
Oh, for the week. Okay. Not
for
in
the
one
20,
run.
20
I was about to say
yes.
that's impressive from 5K to
no,
20K.
So today's Sunday. I have about 5 more K to go. I'm at 15 right now.
Oh, okay. That's going to be easy for me to beat. That's no worries. I'll do that tomorrow morning.
But recently, I've been just trying to my goal has been to keep a constant pace. I've been trying to experiment and trying to see where I can go with it. And I try to run around 1 hour, but that run hour is not a constant running. It's running, walking, running, walking.
So how are you trying to improve? Like what are you focused on?
Right now I'm trying to improve on my pace and my cadence, just keeping a steady pace.
And
I'm trying to work on that.
Despite my like 15-20 minutes to get there, that's kind of the point that I wanted to bring up. Like pace is the very last thing that you focus on when you're running, especially when you're new. So the number one thing is always going to be your form. It's like, how are you landing on your feet, your positioning of your spine, like your positioning of your shoulders. Like you can get kind of hardcore with that kind of thing. But I feel like a lot of runners hit the road and they start focusing on pace so quickly that they end up with an injury. It's not to say you're never going to get an injury, but your form means way more than your pace ever will. I at least personally, I think that, and for my experience, my goal when I first started was I focused on form, then I focused on cadence, then I focused on intake, and then I like pace was the very, very last thing that I focused on. I am not the Olympic runner, even though recently I was able to sprint as fast as they do their strolls.
Special Olympics.
Like it's how you want to go through it. So if your pace is your primary focus, you're going to end up hurting yourself because you're not focused on your form. You're not focused on your cadence. Your cadence, I think people confuse all the time for pace. Your cadence is how often your feet touch the ground. It's steps per minute. It used to be that you wanted 180 steps per minute, but nowadays more studies are coming out saying, hey, it's what your body's okay with. So it can be anywhere from 140 to 210 to depending on how you run. And I think that's important when you're getting out on there, because what do you focus on? You shouldn't be focusing on your pace. And that was kind of the point of this episode. Like, Thien, what were you focused on when you started running, and what are you focused on now?
Well, so I can't really say that I was focused on much at all when I first started running, other than being consistent. Right, consistency was my biggest thing. Being that I had been a resistance weight trainer for so many years, over probably 2 decades at that point, that I always avoided that type of cardiovascular workout. So I needed to just be consistent at that point, to always have that in my routine, to where it became second nature. You know, I know that Matt just said that he considers himself a runner now. I know a lot of runners consider themselves runners, but I don't consider myself a runner. Like Matt, it's part of my life. It's part of eating. I don't call myself an eater or a pisser because I'm pissing every single day, right? It's when I want to go out and run, I run. But what I'm focused on today is more of getting consistently better at being a powerful runner rather than a long distance runner or a certain type of race runner, because my goal in fitness is more than just about running. It's about also my size and my diet right now, where I'm trying to increase my size and have this cardiovascular lifestyle without losing so much weight. Because when I first started running, I started out about 210 pounds. I think by the time I got done with my first mountain trail run I think I finished at like 19 miles. I was about 150 pounds, and I didn't fit any of my clothes.
Wow.
I didn't notice what I was looking at the time, and I lost a lot of strength as well. So today, when I'm out on the trails or out on the road, I'm actually focused on the 1 mile mark, right? This is that how fast and how powerful can I run a mile, and how fast can I recover after running that mile? You know, the thing about being new runners and getting back into fitness is that if you aren't careful, you're going to injure yourself pretty consistently. I'd spent many years training my body. And when I first started running, I was already attuned to what my body was like as far as recovering from pretty significant, other than just like soreness type of injury. And I learned how to nurse them to get myself back onto the road and run, even though I may still be injured or I'm recovering from an injury from a fresh injury, that I was able to consistently run and run past those pain points. And today, I can kind of really go ham, or I can go for a nice easy zone 2 or zone 3, which I think, Andy, you can explain that later, type of running where it's not it I can switch it up for my running, but my running right now are twofolds, right? Number one is to become a more powerful runner, because after a back injury back in college, I lost a lot of mass in my legs. So I want to put mass back into my legs. And I know that putting mass back onto my legs will also help me become a more powerful runner. But at the same time, being a powerful runner will help the fast twitch muscles versus the slow twitch muscles, which you usually get in squats and leg presses and those kind of things. So I would be a more versatile person when it comes to like surviving an apocalypse, right? Because that's what we need running for. But that's my thing. Is that my focus right now is building strength, and part of that is building strength through running. What about you, man?
So I was with you, like when you were talking about it. When you started, you said you were going for consistency. I did the same thing. Like I was wanting to be consistent in everything I did this way, and I have reliable metrics to determine where I needed to change. Unlike you, I had no idea what my body felt like. I didn't know what to expect, when to expect things. I had weird pains. I didn't know certain muscles even existed until they started hurting. But it was just like going out there and learning. I will say, I think I had a larger learning curve maybe than maybe you and Matt, because at the end of the day, like I was not the physically fit person. Again, Matt remembers me from way back in middle school. I did one sport, and it was for 4 months.
Soccer.
And yep,
Yeah.
I've never done anything since then. I never did anything before then.
Weren't you a goalie too?
Do what?
Weren't you a goalie as well?
No. I was
defense.
left defense. Yeah, I was left defense. And then I was changed to center defense because apparently I did a good job, but God, that killed my lungs. Anyway.
Yeah.
No, so yeah, I went from consistency to figure out what my body is, and understanding what your body does under stress at certain speeds makes a whole heck of a lot of difference. Like Matt, I was so focused on the metrics for my watch. I have a Garmin 235. I was so focused on the metrics for my watch that I wasn't paying attention to a lot of what my body was doing. And it took me, I think it was a conversation with Thien that made me realize I have to focus a lot more on my core. And then I focused more, just like I spent a day or two a week just on weight training. I spent an extra day on a different cardiovascular activity. Usually it was biking. And then I spent the rest of the days -1 on running. So I was working out 6 days a week. I took one rest day. And then I think a year into it, I was running a 5K every single day. And that was honestly on my lunch while I was at work. We had a gym in the basement. I just go in the basement, I'd run a 5K, super convenient for me. But the cardio, I mean, the core workouts, I think ended up making the biggest difference. Really? The weight training and understanding what Thien was talking about, and I'm going to bastardize it, but the twitch muscles, like the explosion workouts, the getting to the point where your muscles are reacting to in the way that you want them to, I think ends up making your run more consistent. And the more consistent it is, the better you can change your runs to improve whatever metric you want to improve. So I say that, and instead of passing it to you, Matt, because I know you started running 2 months ago, I'm going to pass it back to Thien. Thien, when you started running, and you decided to move more into the weight training arena, what areas did you focus on the most, and then like what workouts did you find improved your running the most?
So stability, right? So core is the number one stability section that you need to work out on, or at least that really helped me improve my running. The other one was stability in my leg joints, like my ankle. So, when you're walking around on a daily basis or you're weight training, the way your ankle moves, it's pretty unidirectional as far as, going up and down like this. When you're running, especially when you're trail running, your ankles are moving in a multi-axis type movement. And this isn't something that, most weight trainers work on, right? And when I first started to run trails and start attempting ultra runs, I saw how weak my ankles were. I saw how weak my hips were. I saw how weak my knees were, because those were areas that needed a lot of reinforcement, especially around the tendon areas and, the places where like if you took your ankle, your foot, and you move it left to right, that's kind of an unnatural movement unless if you're running into trails. So those were areas that I was really weak at. And that's what I focus on to become a better runner, because when I tried and attempted to run the Mystery Mountain Marathon, which was in Chatsworth, Georgia, I think I was only maybe 6 months into running to do a 28-mile trail run. I made about 19 miles, but where I failed were all these joints. And the other thing is that, as a non-runner, you think that running downhill is the easiest thing to do. But I can tell you that when you get on a mountain, the running downhill is the last thing you want to do. It destroys your knees. It destroys your quads. It's one of the most difficult movements to make. And who'd ever thought, right? You go to gym, you train on a treadmill, you don't get a chance to go downhill. Right. This isn't something you get to do. So, that's one of the toughest things is that reinforcing those really small accessory muscles that you don't think of when you're doing compound lifts. And even when you're doing isolation movement, you're doing it for the much larger muscles rather than these kind of things, right? And even these things are important, because when you're running, man, the way they hang can really bother the way that your form is when you're running. Because you guys know this, Andy, I know you know this, because I consider you a running athlete. The way you put your head, the way you hold your head when you're running can make a tremendous difference on how your back feels when you're running. So, there are a lot of things that I had to include in my strength training regimen to become a better runner. But, the most important one was really consistently running, because I don't know if you remember, there was that one point where I went out and I did 8Ks for 8 days just to kind of see how that was.
I remember that. Yeah, that was impressive. Yeah.
8Ks, 8 days.
Yeah, 8Ks for 8 days. Yeah.
Yeah, that's your next challenge, Matt. You got to do that. So Matt, you're 2 months in. So I'm going to give you a lot of leeway if you don't have an answer to this, but are you doing anything outside of running to improve your running? Whether it's diet or strength training or other cardiovascular activities?
Not really, but I realize as I'm running, I need to incorporate more. Like you said, I need to incorporate more core strength training. And lately I've been...
Go ahead.
And my calf muscles. My calf muscles have been killing me lately. And I feel like that's been the weakest point for me. It's just like my endurance is there now, I feel like, at least. And my heart can keep up, at least according to my watch. But my muscles it's very painful. And I'm trying to run.
Can I make a guess and tell me if I'm way off base? Because I really want to know. When you run, you like landing on your toes?
Actually, no, I don't.
You don't? Where do you land?
I try to land on the flat of my feet lately.
You try to, but where do you land? If you land on the flat of your feet, your calves wouldn't hurt.
Really?
Yeah.
Probably towards the end of my toes then, if you want to say that.
Okay. I think it's because your calves are doing most of your running. And right. like Thien was saying, I think you'd probably benefit from like squats or lunges and whatnot,
right,
and adding it into your routine, especially on your and if you don't want to add an entire strength day, you can do what I used to do and add it into the middle of your run. So I used to I'd run for a mile, and we had this nice little local park with a little training area inside. But I'd run for a mile. I'd go inside the park, and I would pause my watch, and I would just do lunges for like a quarter mile around the thing.
Really?
Yep. And then come back out, and then start my watch back up again and finish the run.
I hate
And
lunges.
the squats, I mean, the squats, the lunges, they make a huge difference, especially on your speed.
And you know, if you can't get to a gym, buy one of those Bosu balls. You know, the little blue bouncy balls, but the half of it is flat.
Yep.
That way you can do side squats, lateral squats, whatever else it is. And it really works on your stability, right? It's not just for the stability of your legs, but when you're working with both legs on that Bosu ball, it also works on your core. So you get a lot of calisthenics and a lot of benefits on those types of accessory muscles when you're using one of those things. It's kind of cool to work out with.
Yeah.
I've been trying to incorporate a lot more dynamic stretches before running, and I feel like that's helped out a lot. I didn't realize how much of an impact that would have, but just like, so the difference between dynamic and static stretching is like static is when you're just staying in one place and you're just holding out your leg or your muscles in one place for a while, versus dynamic is where you're moving constantly, like moving your leg back and forth, left to right. So I've been doing a lot of those type of stretches, even though I look kind of silly going out and doing it. But
I wouldn't worry about so much looking silly. The fact that you're out there, the 90% of the people that would judge you aren't out there. They're behind their computers. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about that too much. This is a good time to segue into zone 3 running. If you're zone 3, when we talk about zones, we're talking about how fast your heart rate is. And depending on your age, each zone has a certain range. For me personally, I believe it's like 125 to 145 is zone 3, and zone 3 is right in the middle. There's 5 zones. It doesn't start from zone 1, it starts from zone 0. Zone 0 to zone 5. Zone 5 is your peak heart rate. Zone 4 is like your anaerobic. Zone 3 is like aerobic kind of training. You'll want to stay a lot of the times in that zone 3, and the zone 3 isn't a hard workout, and that's the point. A lot of zone 3 training for running allows you to sustain a heart rate and trains your heart to moderate itself. So as you're running, you have multiple things that might increase stress in your body, whether it's mental or physical. And both of those, whether it's mental or physical, increases your heart rate. If you psych yourself out, your heart rate's going to go up. If you start climbing up a hill, your heart rate's going to go up. If you start going down a hill and you're worried about falling, your heart rate's going to go up. So if you know when you're going downhill that your cadence is going to be the same, regardless if you go uphill or downhill, you can help control that like mental area. So getting to the point that you can do zone 3 running despite you going uphill or downhill requires a lot of control for your body and understanding how your body reacts and adjusting accordingly. The reason why zone 3 running is so good is because figuring out how to modulate your heart makes you run longer. It doesn't make you run too much faster. If you do zone 3 running for a long period of time, you will eventually run faster because your cardiovascular health will improve greatly over time. But zone 3 running helps you run longer, much longer. You won't tire out. You can find if you sprinted 1 mile, more than likely you're not going to be able to go much more than a mile because you're going to be gassed out. But if you jogged 1 mile, you can go faster. Now imagine if you stayed at zone 3 and you kept an eye on your heart rate, you can go 10 miles and still feel like you can do more. It's not about whether or not you have the strength to do 10 miles. It's whether or not you can control your heart enough to do 10 miles. And most of that is a mental game. I should say that for me, most of that is a mental game. A lot of runners think that it's not a mental game. It's about controlling how you approach a run. So find out where you are with that, and you can find other articles in that regard.
What about for people who are? I'm sorry.
No,
people
go ahead.
who are for like people like me who are very out of shape. And right now, any amount of running is very strenuous on my body, like especially with like my muscles and stuff like that. My muscles are just not used to running, and it's difficult to stay in that. Like, what would you suggest?
So I think if you're at the point where you enjoy running and you're having issues trying to stay in zone 3 because you get to zone 5 quickly, I would suggest like probably two things. One, change your diet. Two, when you go out, only spend 1 to 2 days a week actually getting above zone 4. Most of your runs should be at zone 4 or zone 3. If you need to feel like, hey, I'm sprinting, I'm doing awesome, feels good, I got to go fast for like a full mile, and you want to do that zone 5 running, don't get me wrong, I do it too. I love it. It feels good. The pace feels good. And when you see that number on there and you see how fast you went, you feel great about it. Do it once a week. But it's a lifestyle change, right? So make sure you're spending the majority of your runs between zone 4 and zone 3. Zone 4 is where you want to be if you're trying to get like race pace. Like this is where I want to finish a 5K. My zone 4 pace for this time is going to be whatever. Like you want to make sure your heart rate stays in zone 4 for that. If you go to zone 5, you're going too fast. You got to tone it back down. If you're training for cardiovascular health, there's really no reason to be in zone 5. Most of the time, you kind of want to just be in zone 3. Running in zone 3, unless you're like a super athlete, is like 13, 14 minutes a mile. And there's no shame in that. It's just something you accept, and you need to understand that it's good for you. It doesn't matter if you run a 3-minute mile or a 15-minute mile. Once you run a mile, you burn 300 calories, just about. I think it's like 270 or something. Mm-hmm. Right. It doesn't matter how fast you run it. You burn the same amount of calories. So don't think that in order to lose weight, I've got to run this faster. It doesn't matter. It's based on distance. It's not based on heart rate. It's not based on time. If you're worried about your weight, you're just looking at distance. And if you finish in an hour versus 3 minutes, it's the same amount of calories. And I think that addresses your question, Matt.
Right. Well, let me give you my input here. You're not doing zone 3 running. If you were doing zone 3 running and you're out of shape and you were out there every single day doing zone 3, you can probably still manage to run for hours on end. The problem is that you're not doing zone 3 running. One of the biggest problems with fitness software and fitness devices is that you tend to get gauged up against people based on pace. And you have to understand that while Andy said that a zone 3 average person's pace is about 13-minute mile, yours is not going to be anywhere close to the 13-minute mile right now. And if zone 3 for you right now means literally walking, when you're running and you see your monitor starts ticking beyond that zone 3, you have to stop running. You have to stop running and maintain a fast enough pace and walking to maintain that heart rate throughout the duration that you're going to walk or you're going to jog. You know, the run walk pattern is not a bad thing, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to maintain that zone of what about. Yours is probably about in the 140s, right?
130 to 150.
Right. So if you're exceeding 150, then you're actually not trying to do a zone 3, because the only thing that you need to do to get the heart rate down is slow down or walk. Right. So you have to get into that habit of saying, okay, well, if my goal is to build an aerobic base so that it can run further for longer time and eventually increase my speed. This is one of the most difficult things for runners that I know Andy and myself have dealt with when we were early runners, is that slow and steady makes you run faster.
Oh yeah.
And that's the thing is that you'll see that your zone 3 your pace will increase because your cardiovascular efficiency will increase. Now, you say that you're out of shape, but the reality of it is that even if you start on zone 3 running, as soon as you start out running, your body has this idea that you're about to put into anaerobic workout. And until you allow yourself to run long enough in that zone for your body to say, wait a minute, we're doing an aerobic workout, your body will start feeling comfortable and you'll start there's a rule, right, Andy? As long as you can hold a good conversation,
Yep.
you're not overexerting yourself.
Conversation based. Yep.
Right. So, that's the thing is that you're right at that point where you can still hold a conversation with somebody else, but not so much where you're relaxing. Is that's kind of your perceived exertion that you need to be at. And you can't look at our pace on our apps and say, hey, I need to be at that pace, because you're never going to be able to build that foundation that you need to be an endurance runner.
And don't worry about how you look, because I used to talk to myself on my runs. I used to literally just like take off my earbuds and just talk to myself. Yeah. Because that was the only way I knew, because when you're running, you have the earbuds on, you're going, you're like, I feel good. But as soon as you start talking, you can't keep up anymore. You're going too fast.
Yeah, I started taking Chinese lessons on my so I'm like I can't even think of it now, but yeah, I saying random Mandarin phrases while I'm running. Well, guys. So is it more? Oh, sorry, I just had one more quick question. Is it more important to stay in zone 3 than keeping a constant pace?
If you're staying in zone 3, you're more than likely keeping a constant pace. If you're staying in a constant pace for more than 2 miles, you'll likely get above zone 3 because of your cardiovascular health. Depending on where you are with your training, if you're just starting, you could be like half a mile before you get out of zone 3. The idea is to be not 100% in zone 3. The idea is to be almost like a pyramid into zone 3. So if you're dipping down to 115 or you're going up to 160, it's not a big deal as long as you're trying to make sure that the majority of your time, and I'm saying like 2/3 of your time, is spent in zone 3. It's not possible. It might be possible. It's not realistic to always want yourself to 100% be in zone 3. So if you find yourself catching into zone 4, don't hurt yourself over it. Just slow down, walk if you have to. Try not to walk. Try just to jog a little bit slower. But just slow yourself down, get your heart rate going back to zone 3, and it'll improve a lot faster than it would be if you zone 4'd every single run, or zone 5. Zone 5 every single run would actually make you go slower.
And how long should I be running for? If I'm like doing zone 3 and zone 4 training.
If you can't sustain zone 3, you should stop running. If you can't slow down and bring your heart rate back down to zone 3 within 3 to 4 minutes, I'd say you're done.
But like more like total time. If I'm out on the field and
your
I tell my family, hey,
okay. So if you're running to run, your time doesn't matter. The fact that you came out there, as long as you did more time this week than you did a month ago, you're doing great. Your time does not matter. If you're going out there for cardiovascular health, 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
So right. I actually have a measure for this. Okay. And maybe it doesn't apply to you, Matt, and Andy knows this very well with me, is that the duration that you run is how many calories you can afford to buy, because that shit's expensive.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah.
All right, guys. I'm going to wrap up the episode. That was a lot of fun. I really liked running. I hope I didn't get too hardcore with it. But thanks for sticking around. I hope we were able to give you an idea of what to expect if you got into running, how you should approach it, and what things you should look out for. That being said, Matt, what do you have for us next week?
I was thinking about talking about my experience since I've been running a lot. I've been running a lot in the national parks in Singapore, and just my general experience with it, and how Singaporeans in general experience the national parks here.
Awesome. All right.
Before we get off, I got an idea for next week, and you guys can turn me down. Okay.
I know
we usually bring drinks to the table. You guys ever seen this this little potato chip that people buy on Amazon? It's like a really, really spicy chip.
No, but if you're talking about doing that for next week, I'm down.
Yeah. Would you be down, Matt?
Yeah, I'm down for that.
Yeah, I think we should start that next week.
It might take 3 weeks to get to Matt, though.
Yeah,
I was going to say, I
was like, we'll look into it. But okay, yeah. All right. Yeah.
Let's do it. All right, guys. See you guys next week.
See ya.
All right. See you guys next week.
All right. Yeah.
I gotta piss.